West Ham 1, Chelsea 5. Chelsea were absolutely brilliant. West Ham, well, they were not. Now, today we're going to get straight into things and look at how Chelsea dominated this game and just absolutely obliterated West Ham and had one of the easiest games they will have all season. And this was probably one of the most one-sided football matches we'll see in the Premier League this year. Although West Ham do have quite a lot of matches. The problem for West Ham in this game is just that they were incredibly passive. In terms of Chelsea, we know what they're going to do. We covered them on the channel last week. They like to build possession in a back three. So we're going to see three of them shifting across like this into that back three shape. We're then going to see the other fullback on the other side move into a slightly more inverted position, although he could overlap as well. And this is what Chelsea are trying to do. So if we just look at this in terms of a shape perspective, Chelsea have almost got themselves a little bit of a diamond going on in the middle of the park. And then at the back, you've got the back three. And then, of course, across the front, you've got the front three. So very similar to what Chelsea were doing last week against Crystal Palace. And Chelsea fans may have been a little bit concerned coming into the game. Because in theory, Chelsea could have faced a very similar challenge and a very similar problem to what they did last week. Last week it was Crystal Palace in a 5-2-3, an excellent defensive setup. This week it was West Ham in a 5-2-3, a terrible defensive setup. And the big problem for West Ham was just that they never got any pressure on the ball, but they were trying to. So they were trying to chase the ball, they were trying to sort of press and harass Chelsea in these areas, but they simply weren't good enough to do so, and they didn't have enough numbers. And Chelsea ultimately had far too many solutions. Now, solution number one that I want to look at was the change of position for Cucurella. You can see him here on the left side of the fence. This is a slightly different role to what he was playing last week. Last week, he would have actually been in this position here where Enzo Fernandez was. But of course, this week he's playing deeper on the left side of the back three. And I think the reason why Chelsea did this was to have a left footer in the deep phase that could progress the ball. You see, last week we saw a back three of Chalobah on the left-hand side. He was the left-sided centre-back, but being left-footed, or being right-footed, I should say, it gave him a bit of a problem because he couldn't go outside with the ball. He couldn't access Neto, or the winger, particularly easily. Cucurella, with his left foot, could. It was incredibly easy for him to move the ball out wide, and then Neto could go 1-versus-1 against Wan-Bissaka. Not an easy task, but Wan-Bissaka will always give you a little bit of initial room to work with, so Chelsea could move the ball forward, and that allows them to be dominant. The other reason why Chelsea was dominant was because of the different solutions they had in this area here. Now, you can see the West Ham shape. It's a 5 at the back who aren't quite in the shot. It's a 2 in midfield. It's a front 3. And you can see on this occasion, Enzo Fernandez dropping a little bit deeper alongside Caicedo. This is one of Chelsea's solutions to play round West Ham in this first phase. You see, the narrow nature of Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez means that the two wider centre-backs for Chelsea can move much wider. So they're not just outside of the back three, they're actually really wide. Cucurella here is positioning himself more like a traditional fullback. And because the two midfielders are still narrow for Chelsea, West Ham are drawn narrow. So the West Ham three think they can go and get the ball. They can go and get Fernandes and Caicedo, but they can't, and Chelsea can just play around them incredibly easily. And just look at the room that Cucurella has to receive the ball in before moving forward. It's stupidly easy. We've also got another quick example of this here. You can see again Enzo Fernandez dropping deeper alongside Caicedo in midfield. West Ham are just all over the place. Paqueta is trying to come inside. He's trying to press Caicedo. He's trying to come from the blind side so that he can get some pressure on the ball. But it's just ridiculously easy. It is terrible from West Ham. And in terms of Graham Potter, the manager, you've got to look at him. Because you can't have two players or three players back here and two players up here sort of chasing the ball by themselves. They're looking to gain territory. They're looking to try and get after Chelsea. But the rest of the team is back there. And the back five, we can't even see them. It is so disconnected. And if we just quickly get rid of everything on screen right now, just look at that ridiculously large space up there. It's so bad from West Ham. It's so easy for Chelsea to move the ball through the pitch. The other solution that Chelsea had was to, at times, drop Caicedo back into a back four. So rather than being sort of a solo pivot operating in midfield, he would drop a little bit deeper, in between or alongside his centre-backs, and Chelsea now moves to this sort of situational back four. Again, that means that Chelsea have a 4 up against West Ham's pressing 3, or sometimes only 2. That means Chelsea have got more. And Chelsea have good technical players at the back, the likes of Tosin Adarabioyo, Chalobah. They're good on the football. It's too easy for them to move around the back and once again just get past West Ham. So far, we have praised Chelsea a little bit, but we've been very critical of West Ham, and we've talked a lot about the bad stuff of their performance. Time for more positives for Chelsea, and that was the solutions and the proactiveness with which they played. Last week, we covered the game against Crystal Palace and said that Chelsea were just too slow. They looked really lethargic on the ball. They didn't really have options. There was no one running off the ball. No one was going into space or creating space. Chelsea were very, very static, and they didn't really trouble Crystal Palace enough. Fast forward to this week, very different. We saw runners off the ball. That could be Pedro operating as a sort of second striker just behind the lap, making that run from deep beyond the ball like we can see here, or even Malo Gusto from right back taking his chance to run in behind. There were several different Chelsea players that were moving, and that's important. Last week there were moments where Chelsea created space, but they then didn't attack it. This game was very, very different. I think Esteval was really, really exciting with his right-wing performance. It's the first time I've watched him properly for like a large stint of a football match, and he looked really, really exciting. I was really entertained by his work. Not just his dribbling work and his passing work, but actually his willingness to be a runner off the ball, to create space for himself by dropping deeper, and then to go into the space himself. And we actually saw that sort of theme playing out for what I believe was the third goal. So initially, West Ham are in trouble. What are they doing here? No one out wide for West Ham. No one anywhere near the ball. Chelsea have progressed the ball very easily to this position. Still no pressure on the ball, so Chelsea move the ball out wide. What we then see is eventually the West Ham defenders trying to get towards the ball. So this is Aguerd, the left-sided centre-back, and also we've got the left wing-back as well, trying to engage, trying to put pressure on the Chelsea players in this position. But are they really succeeding in doing that? Your left wing-back and your left-sided centre-back cannot come out that advanced. They cannot be that aggressive with their positioning, but still be that far away from the ball. If you're coming out of the defensive line, you've got to be able to get pressure on the ball. If not, you are stepping out into no man's land. And that's where these West Ham players find themselves. Nowhere near the ball. Physically, they looked miles off it. They couldn't get close to these Chelsea players. But also, and this is a big insult really, and I don't like to say it, they didn't look coached. They didn't look like they knew what they were supposed to be doing at the right times. The timings were all over the shop. And it gave Chelsea the opportunity to play a ball around the corner. Delap shows really good hold-up play here up against the central centre-back. Lays the ball off for Esteval, who does the rest. His work is absolutely brilliant. But just look how quickly Chelsea have gone from here really in this position with West Ham struggling to put pressure on the ball. And as a result, Chelsea get to here incredibly easily. The ball comes across the box. Enzo Fernandez puts it into the net. And it works because West Ham are all over the place, but because Chelsea were dynamic with their movement. Now, ultimately, we could sit here all day and talk about different ways that Chelsea were able to get through West Ham. But what I wanted to do in this video was just quickly summarise it. We don't always need a 20-minute breakdown. Sometimes we need to look at the obvious things that happened in a football match, which really cost West Ham and allowed Chelsea to flourish. What cost West Ham was their passive defensive shape, their lack of physicality, their lack of intensity, their lack of organisation. What worked for Chelsea was different solutions in the build-up, so Maresca deserves credit for that. He got it better this week than he did last week, but also the dynamic play of the forwards, willing to make runs off the ball, and also really willing to get numbers into the box to attack the ball. That's what Chelsea lacked last week, and they had this week, and they were up against a much worse side, and Chelsea were dominant. Deserved 5-1 winners, could have been more. They perhaps even would have liked more. They would have liked to have really gone for the kill and got a 6th or a 7th, because it was there for them if they wanted to. I guess early in the season you protect yourself a little bit, but it's a really good day for Chelsea. Terrible for West Ham. Serious problems. Something has to change very quick. If not, they are going to slip right into a relegation battle this season. They have to be very careful. Very, very careful. Chelsea, a much better week for them. So that's where we're going to leave the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.